I'm Manny.
I'm Noah.
This is Devin.
And this is No Such Thing, the show where we settle our dumb arguments and yours by actually doing the research. On today's episode, we're asking why men don't ask follow-up questions. We're going to be talking to masculinity expert Liz Plank, who helps Noah, Devin, and I figure out how much we actually know about each other.
You should know who their ex is, like who their last breakup was with.
That's interesting.
And gives us a very special assignment.
There's no such thing. No such thing. No such thing. No such thing. No such thing.
All right, boys. I think we're all congested up today.
Yeah.
So apologies to the listeners.
Sounds sexy today.
Sound a little nasty.
Sound a little nasty.
It is funny we're all, how did this happen at the same time? I haven't
know.
seen you guys in a while.
And then it's been a minute.
I wanted to start off this episode by playing a TikTok.
I'm gonna order a beer. You want one? No, I'm good. I just got out of rehab. Right. Okay. So, how's Samantha? How's married life? Oh, I didn't tell you. We got divorced. Oh. You want to put together like a little parlay for this weekend? Hell yes. What do you want to do? Throw like 50 down on something? I just got fired from the firm last week. Maybe let's do 25? No, fuck it, dude. I got hit by a city bus last month. All right, the settlement money just came in. I got you. Yeah?
So that video is a joke, obviously. It's hyperbolized.
Yeah.
But it still resonated with me because I've definitely been there before. We have male friendships like this. I would like to think that the three of us are like a different breed of man, like a more more sensitive, I think, than the average person and we do ask each other follow-up questions. We care about what's happening in our lives, but I do have friends I would consider close friends, and I know what they do in work, but I couldn't name like the name of their company, for example. Mm-hmm. Do you guys run into this? Like, what's your experience with this kind of phenomenon?
Watching that video, I was thinking, like, last week I had a call with a friend of ours that we used to work with, and then we're just chatting, and he was like, oh yeah, like my wife's having our second kid in April. Yeah. And it was like, he was like, oh yeah, I wasn't sure if I mentioned that or not, and it was like, oh, like that's a pretty big thing for me to not know and happening soon. And to be fair, it's not like I don't chat with him every week or as frequently. Like if that was one of you guys having a kid in 3 months,
you would know.
I'd be shocked. Yeah. Versus like, oh yeah, I guess it just means we don't really talk that much.
Yeah. Do you guys have like close friends who you think this kind of applies to, this phenomenon, I guess you'd call it?
I don't like to pry. So I think it's different if it comes up in conversation.
Yes.
I will ask follow-up questions if that person brings it up themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if someone doesn't come to me with the information, I'm not someone who's going to ask that question that's like going to make somebody uncomfortable.
That's exactly how I feel, and I think to me that's what it is. Like, I'm overall a pretty live and let live sort of guy. So it's like, if someone wants to talk to me about something serious or whatever, like I hope I'm receptive and they'd feel comfortable talking to me about anything.
Yeah.
But I don't want to put someone on the spot in that way if they don't want to open up to me in that way, because that's how I kind of feel. And sometimes there's things where it is helpful for someone to kind of push you to that. I mean, it is good usually to be pushed into maybe an uncomfortable conversation,
of course,
and open up in that way. But like in a normal setting, it is uncomfortable, and I don't want to put that on someone else to do it. If they don't want to naturally,
How much of this do you think is gendered? Like, the other day, I was listening to my girlfriend talk on the phone with her sisters about, our week. And she was really going into detail about certain things that I was like, oh, no, nothing like offensive, but it was just, it was just like, oh, wow. And then I thought about if I talked to my siblings and they asked me how my week went, I'd be like, it was good.
You went to work?
Everything was fine.
Oh, yeah.
I notice this all the time when I talk to my mom. She tells details about like what she's done for the day or just like a story. Mm-hmm. It'll be sometimes I'm like, okay, like I don't need to know that level of detail.
Yeah.
But she'll she'll be like, oh yeah, I pulled in the parking lot and then this thing happened and then I was talking to this person and they said this thing. And to your point, when I'm talking to people, like if people are, I'm like kind of straight and to the point because I'm always thinking they don't care about this.
Yeah.
Let me just say what's essential.
Yeah.
But I think, this is, broad strokes.
Yeah.
We understand stereotyping. But I think women generally are more specific in their storytelling.
Yep.
And in the questions that they ask, the follow-ups, that sort of thing. And guys are just sort of, what do I need to know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And contextualizing things before the story even begins.
Yes.
So like I run into
Yes.
this a lot with my sister or with Mia where like there's a lot of like lore that happens first and then you get the story but whereas I would just
Yes,
start from
exactly.
the beginning of the story.
Like before we even get into it, you got to know that like Bob
Yes,
is.
yeah. But then it ends up being helpful. It's like it's not like
They're much better storytellers, I think, because of that.
No, yeah, I've definitely had similar situations where, I'm hanging out with some guy friend and then I go home and, I'm talking to my girlfriend and I'm, say, oh, like he told me this about XYZ.
Yeah,
and then she's like, oh, and what about, a normal follow-up? And it's like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Like, kind of none of my business, I guess. But yeah, maybe you can find out when you see it.
Maybe you can ask the follow-up questions that
like,
I
why don't
did
we all
not
get
ask.
drinks together and,
we can get to the
you can
bottom of
ask.
this.
Yeah, it's like, didn't come up.
So it's not just a meme, right? There's like a
No, it
lot
is
of
real.
a lot of literature on this. As a few examples, Bustle.com had why don't men ask me more questions on dates? So we've been talking about conversations with friends, but a lot of this phenomenon seems to be in the dating world. San Diego Magazine, why don't men ask questions on apps? Quartz, the gendered way we ask questions is terrible for both men and women. And so it's definitely something that's like real and happening.
I feel like most of the conversation or literature I've seen around this has been more so in terms of dating. I've seen less sort of conversations around, well, until more recently, friendships.
Yeah.
Which I find to be more interesting. I don't know. For me, it's like the dating thing is just it's so easy to ask follow-ups because you don't know anything about this person.
Yeah, that's all you have.
Yes.
To work with.
That's more confusing to me.
Yeah.
the
So you're
dating.
either monologuing
Yes.
and not asking anything about the other person, or it's like there's not really much else you can do unless one person is just gonna literally talk the entire time, which happens, I suppose. So.
And look, and maybe we should get people who have dated or went on dates of all of us to respond to this, because obviously we're biased because we're saying, oh, on dates we all ask follow-up questions.
Yeah.
But it's us.
I certainly remember like years ago we didn't even go on a date, but we were like it was leading to a date, I think. And I remember that woman telling a friend of mine that I talked too much or something in our interaction.
Oh.
But then I just remembered it totally differently. So just to your point about like the bias that we have in our own heads, we're probably so interesting to ourselves in our heads.
Maybe the people we're dating are like, these dudes don't ask any follow-up questions.
Yeah.
And I think there's probably something to it where in a dating scenario where you don't know the other person, I can think of dates I've been on where I think I've over-talked in a way because the other person seems to not be maybe giving me anything. So it's like, well, that's just what it is. And then
Got nothing to work with.
Spoiler, that's not my girlfriend.
Yeah, you're correct.
So, it's like,
You didn't win.
and like, or it's like, you're so worried about being the person who doesn't talk that then you go too much in the other direction and you can't find the balance.
The other reason I'm more interested in this dynamic when it comes to friends than dating is because dating, there's so many variables of like, people are nervous on dates. They might be doing things they wouldn't normally do.
Yes.
If it's your friend who you've known for years and you still aren't asking follow-up questions, it becomes a little more interesting. There's certainly I'm sure we all have this where we have different like tiers of friends or like caliber of friend. Like there are friends you have where you go for a drink and get into deep stuff. You have other friends where you're like, hey, I want to watch the game tonight or something like that. And so, there's all these different roles and dynamics being played.
Well, there's a time and place for things too. I mean, that's a lot of it too, where it's like, yeah, of course, it's great to everyone should have some people they can open up to and talk to. At the same time, you don't want to be the guy who every time you're getting dinner, now it's like you're hearing all my drama and like my deep, it's like not everyone needs to be that for every person.
Yeah.
Or should be.
So as a little game, I guess, if I told you guys that I just got out of the hospital, what would your reaction be?
Damn. That's crazy.
Are you okay?
Yeah. No, I'm doing all right.
What happened?
Got in a car accident.
Oh shit, were you driving?
Yeah, so these
Your
are
fault?
you guys are close enough to we're asking follow-up questions. You're not just like, "Damn, I'm sorry." And then that's where the conversation ends. Just wanted to test you guys.
Yeah. Great test.
I'll be throwing a real
That's a
one
good
out
one.
in real life somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
in the wild.
Do a Project Veritas us.
All right, we will be talking to Liz Plank. She's an expert in many things, but for the purposes of this episode today, she's an expert on men and masculinity. She's got a famous book, I would consider it famous by now, called For the Love of Men, From Toxic to a More Mindful Masculinity. And she's going to hopefully break this down for us. That's after the break.
Can you guys hear me now?
Hey Liz.
Hey,
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
First of all, thank you for doing this. Huge help to us. We brought you on for this central question, why don't men ask follow-up questions? But first, I was curious, in your experience, how have you dealt with this? Have you run into this in your personal life? Are there any notable incidents that you can remember?
Like far too many probably to recall, if I'm going to be honest. If you're a woman going on dates with men, I think particularly it is just, part of the experience. I think to become like a late night host, like where you're just like, okay, I guess I'm David Letterman. Like I'm just going to ask you questions and make you feel great about your life. And while I just entertain an audience that doesn't exist. And get absolutely nothing in return. I think in terms of first dates, it is just so rampant. I think it's a real epidemic of like going on a date and then leaving and being like, wow, this man does not know a thing about me, right? And like, and had a great time. Which you would have a great time, right? If you just talk about yourself, I'm sure you'd all have a great time. But when they want to go on a second date or like, that was great, you're like, was it? Do you? Like, tell me one thing. Like, you want to quiz them.
What did you like about me?
One reason why they, like you. Do guys think about that on dates?
I've been out of the game, so to speak, for a while, but yeah, back in in that time, I think I would notice on the few occasions where I felt like I talked too much. I would notice like when it was too late, I guess, like towards the end of a spiel or something like that. I'd be like, oh, wait a second, I got to take a step back. For anyone who's listening who would like to hear like a bit of advice about what to do if they're in that situation, if they're on a date with a guy and they just are like, oh my God, I can't believe this. What should they do? What should they say? Something
that I think women, could do better, right? And sort of practice is like being less people pleasing, right? And being less focused on making the other person comfortable over their own comfort, right? So I think that if you're not having a good time, if you're bored, don't hide it, because I think so many times, especially I think when I was younger, I would just kind of like still keep like a smile and like just again keep throwing questions even though I was pissed. And yeah, like I noticed that with age and with time, like if I did act the way that I felt, which was like, I'm a little bored right now, I'd like look down at the menu or I'd I wouldn't look at my phone. Like I wouldn't do something as rude as that, but sort of like not act super interested if I'm not super interested in your answer at this point. I think that would be like my recommendation of just being like truthful.
We've established that this is happening in like people's dating lives. But it also seems to be a phenomenon in conversations from one man to another man, like who are friends. And I'm curious, do men and women behave differently in conversation? Like, do we have different goals? What has your experience and your expertise told you about that kind of dynamic?
Yeah, there's this, concept that women tend to have face-to-face friendships and men have sort of side-to-side friendships. So it's the idea that, women usually will tend to go to brunch together, go to dinner, get a smoothie and be face-to-face and really be connecting, I think, in a more intimate way. And men tend to go see, like a basketball game, or they go to the bar and they're sitting at the bar, right? So they're not facing each other. They're actually like shoulder to shoulder. And so the level of intimacy, I think, is very often different if you're engaging from that, perspective. So I think that it is harder for men to go deep, with other men.
One thing you said that kind of blew my mind is that concept of face-to-face versus side-by-side, because now I'm like thinking back on like most of my friendships with men, and it is like there's like some central thing happening that we're both experiencing versus, sitting across from each other at a table and talking. We'll be watching a game or a movie or something like that.
Do you think it would be weird if you were like, do you want to get dinner instead? Like, do you think that would be difficult?
There are a few men in my life who I could go to dinner with or go grab a drink where we're sitting across from each other. But like the vast majority, I would be like, yeah, there needs to be a basketball game on.
We need an activity to focus on.
Why?
I think
is it safer? Like,
when you're at a dinner, it's like you and the other person, that is the entertainment for the night.
yeah.
And if you don't have anything to say, you can't just be like, well, we're just going to be silent and watch this thing happening.
Yeah, you can't just like list basketball players.
Yeah.
Well, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, there's this sort of ranking, right, that is inherently there in all of these conversations, that somehow like female friendship is sort of better than male friendship, right? Because it's more intimate, because it's face to face. And I think that there are also downsides to I think female friendships are like very intense. I don't want to talk about how I'm feeling right now. Like there's a lot of heavy things going on, and I know that if I meet up with a female friend, she's going to ask me how I'm doing. She's going to ask me follow-up questions. If I just like brush it off and give her a vague, superficial answer, like it's probably not going to be enough. And I think that there are also downsides to the intensity where, there's way more friendship breakups with women.
Yeah.
Like you'll very rarely like there's the whole Roman Empire trend, right? That men think about the Roman Empire like so often. And this guy like asked his girlfriend, like, what's your Roman Empire? And she was like, my ex-best friend. And like every woman was like, yes, like that's my Roman Empire. Because and I think like men don't necessarily like have an ex-best friend, but like almost every woman does.
Yeah, there's this kind of consensus that it's a lot easier for two men to become friends than it is for two women. But that actually makes sense if the depth of that friendship is very surface level. It feels like toddlers becoming friends versus a very intentional interaction that you want to have.
Yeah, it's like you're at the, like you're at the park and you're like, well, we both like this slide. That means we're friends. And like, let's meet up and like go down the slide. And then sometimes we won't like go down the slide for, a couple of months, but that's fine because I don't expect to do anything with you besides like going down the slide.
Whereas with women, it's like, why haven't you gone down the slide? Yeah. Why aren't you here? Like, are you mad at me? Like, let's talk about it. Let's meet up outside of the slide. Like, it just would be, again, it's very, I would never like ever want to trade places. But I really value those friendships. They're so intimate. And I think sometimes actually like female friendships are so rich and so intimate, and you feel so supported that it can make relationships with men harder because you're like, no man will ever compare, right? And in a way, I think that it's important for women to not compare, right? Like I think we do, again, not to generalize that all men are one way or all women are one way, but I do think that men, relate in different ways and will provide, different things to women in our relationships than like female friendships are supposed to.
Yeah. So when it comes to kind of this central question, there is this sociolinguist named Deborah Tannen who kind of offers up one explanation, which is that the goals that men have in conversation are different than the goals that women have in conversation. And you touched on this a little bit, but she mentions that men are trying to exhibit knowledge and skill, storytelling, joking, or imparting information, whereas women are more often trying to develop connections and discover similarities. I wanted to ask you, like, how accurate does that sound to you? Has that been your experience in your research?
Yeah, 100%. I love her as a researcher. I think, she provides really interesting insights and certainly, and again, if you think about how we reward women and men in our society, like men are rewarded by, again, status, right? Like how much money do you have, or how successful are you? How much knowledge do you have, right? So in conversations, of course, you're going to be focused on providing that, right? Or that will be a priority, right? When you're entering conversations. And for women, it's not as much status, but more, are you nurturing, right? Are you able to care for people? Are you able to connect with people? Or do people like you, right? And I think that is why we come into conversations very differently. And actually, men and women can be punished, right? If they do what is expected of the opposite gender, right? If I were to come into a conversation and just talk about all my accomplishments and like try and prove that I'm better than you, again, I'm not saying that when men do that, it's like super attractive to everybody, but it's definitely a transgression, right, of how women are supposed to act. So, it's not just that we have those like proclivities, but that we are rewarded, right, socially for, indulging in those proclivities and sort of engaging in those dynamics. I think that we're moving towards a definition of masculinity that is like much more empathetic or just in general, I think our society is more interested in like EQ than IQ. Our workplaces certainly reward EQ more than IQ. And so I do think we're moving in that direction, but I think men are still, sort of stuck between an old and a new model and like adjusting to that.
So we've learned that men, or heterosexual men at least, are simply kind of socialized to extract certain things from conversations, and those things differ greatly to what women are trying to extract from conversations. But one thing that Noah mentioned earlier in this episode that struck me is that sometimes when he's talking to another man, he doesn't necessarily want to put that person into a vulnerable situation where they feel like they should share something even if they don't want to.
I think that's what it is, where it's like, I don't want to put you in a position where you feel weird or like I'm prying, even though it's like normal information. Yeah. And like I wouldn't feel uncomfortable if you asked that follow up upon me, but I don't want to be the person putting you there.
But it's also that putting a man in a vulnerable, quote unquote, position has different implications than putting a woman in a vulnerable position, right? If I were to see, a female friend cry, or to tell me that she's hurting or whatever, and for me to be like, oh my God, what's going on? Like, and for her to be emotional or be vulnerable, like that's not a threat to her gender identity. It's not a threat to it's not transgressive, right? Like in a way that it is for men, right, to be vulnerable. And so I think that a lot of men, I really appreciate you saying that, because I hear that a lot, right? If I did that to a female friend, it's because I don't give a shit. Like it literally would just be like mean, right? Yeah. Like I would have to like literally hate her to like do that. But when a guy does it, there's a whole other intention there behind, or a whole other like motivation. And it's a different thing, because of how honestly like dangerous it can be for a guy to be vulnerable in and that men don't necessarily want to put another man in that situation, not because they don't care, because they care about them, right? So it's out of love sometimes that I think you pull back.
So that's actually a perfect segue into the segment that we want to do after the break. Basically, Devin, Noah, and I would like to think that we know each other pretty well, partially because we do ask each other follow-up questions, but we want to put that to the test. And so, Liz, we're going to ask you to come up with 3 things that you think good friends should know about each other.
That's so funny.
And then the 3 of us are going to take that quiz and see how we fare.
Okay.
But that's after the break. Welcome to a game show titled Do Manny, Noah, and Devin Know Literally One Single Thing About Each Other? Live. We're here with special guest Liz Plank. Why don't we go ahead and get started with question number 1?
I feel like you should know your best friend's middle name. I think, yeah.
We're already losing.
I'm thinking, I'm
nervous
like,
now.
I'm sweating bullets.
This is so
All right.
basic.
So why don't we start in the order of how we say the our
famous
names in
order,
the show?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
I'll go
Manny.
first. You guys gotta have to guess my middle name.
okay.
Or do you know my middle name?
I thought I did, but now I don't.
Well, this one's already hard because my family is from Eritrea, and the naming convention there is so much different than it is in the Western world. Basically, you don't have a family name necessarily. You do like your lineage. You get your name, your middle name is your dad's name, and your last name is your grandfather's name. And so my dad's name is blank Fidel. And growing up, we were hanging out at his auto repair shop, Fidel Auto Repair. And I've been using that as kind of my professional stage name, even though the way it works in Eritrea is that my middle name is my dad's name and my last name is my grandfather's name, which is Okbazgi. But take all of that and throw it out the window because my dad decided to buck the lineage trend and give me a middle name. I'm not sure if I've ever told you guys this. It starts with a B.
Benjamin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, it's pronounced differently.
Benjamin.
Exactly. Binyam.
Okay. Well, yeah, we had no shot at that.
No. We got
We
it.
did pretty well.
Sorta.
Yeah.
Sorta.
All right. Noah, isn't it something like Clark or something like that? It's something that's way more.
What does it
It's-
start with?
I don't want to say it, but B.
Oh, is it also?
It's not Benjamin, is it? Holy shit.
Yeah.
All right. We are failing terribly at this.
How the fuck did
should
you
have
two
known
not
that.
know?
Yeah, that's
I know. That's funny.
Damn. All right. Devin.
See, Devin's already got 2 first names.
You guys should kind of know this one.
I know. I feel like I definitely will have known it once I hear it.
Yeah. I will say there's a celebrity connection. Not why I'm
Yeah,
actually naming
yeah.
this, but why we've talked about it. Devin,
James.
yes.
Yeah.
I was like, Jordan?
Devin James. And just for the listeners, the 3 of us are huge fans of Kevin James.
We've seen him live.
And so, wow, that's hilarious. I don't think I knew that. All right, so Liz would be pretty disappointed in us so far.
Hey, we got it right.
Yeah.
No,
Just
but
with a little bit
And
of
now I'm actually going to remember
Friday.
these.
the problem is we just didn't know the
Yeah, it's
answers
true.
to them.
We should just know it up top,
Yeah, but
right?
it's like,
Middle names are tough.
yeah, they don't come up really.
No.
Okay, number 2, their astrological sign. Like, I feel like you need to know, which entails that you know their birthday.
I don't know the signs.
I don't know the signs either, but
Vaguely I know,
I think I can
but-
get your guys' birthdays. But
So
let's start with mine.
Yours is this is kind of cheating.
It's
'cause It,
unfair.
just
It
happened.
It did just happen, but the party was not on the day of my
Yeah,
birthday.
it's the 11th day.
Okay.
Yeah, the 11th.
All right. Good
February
job.
11th.
So we got Manny. All right. Noah is August the 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whew, almost said 3rd. And Devin is September 7th.
that's correct.
Yeah.
Wow. Killed it. All right. Liz, not happy for question number 1. Liz, very happy for question number 2. Question number 3 is kind of spicy.
You should know who their exes, like who their like last breakup was with. You should be able to give a one line at least about why the breakup happened.
That's interesting.
If you can't, I'm gonna die. Are you serious?
Previous breakup and why.
And why?
So, and now are we considering literally the last person you called a partner, or just like
Yeah,
the
that's what I
last-
was gonna ask. Is this a situationship
Yeah.
or is this?
I mean, it can
last
vary based on,
relationship? Okay.
whoever. I would say more serious.
All right, so we'll start with me.
I have no idea.
It's not a trick question. It should be easy. Yeah.
Wow, I thought there had to be someone in between.
Like someone
as well.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
Okay.
Why? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I mean,
This one's hard too because it's like there's not one reason.
yeah. The why?
where do I begin?
There's actually 100 reasons. I mean, I don't think that it was one person.
not a good match.
Yeah, I think
For a long
we were
term.
young and stupid.
What year was that?
Actually, I remember it vividly because it was during the World Cup. So it's
Wow.
2018.
Broke up
and I
during the
remember
World Cup.
Holy shit!
I remember the World
2018?
Yeah.
Whoa. I guess that makes sense if then you had a couple of years of nothing.
And
or,
then COVID.
Respect.
No, it wasn't nothing. It was
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, it was so
I remember the World Cup being like kind of saving my ass in terms of
What do you mean?
just like, oh, a big breakup happened, but now I'm
Focused
focused
on
on this.
football.
Oh, you had
Yeah.
something. To
Your next love.
Because I'm a huge fan of the beautiful game. All right,
All right. Nice.
Noah.
Is this the obvious one?
Probably. Yeah.
Now I'm blinking on her name.
I know I'm kind of blanking on her name.
Yeah.
The why?
Yeah.
To the best of my recollection, I don't know. She just kind of didn't seem about it.
Yeah.
About that life.
Yep.
She didn't want
Yeah.
to
that
settle
was the
down
read I
or-
got.
Yeah. I don't think we saw eye to eye on what we wanted at the time. So, it ran its course as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Devin, we all know this one because it was big news.
Yeah. This
In the
was,
group chat.
groundbreaking.
Correct.
Okay.
The reason why, though, I mean, I guess there's a couple reasons.
There wasn't like a big fight or
Yeah.
anything. So it's not as fun.
Okay.
Yeah. That was a good one.
This is the issue. I think the issue with this is we gave ourselves the easy way out
What do you mean?
because we said relationships and not situationships.
Oh yeah, situationships.
Well,
I
would
think
be
if
over.
we asked Liz, she would know all her friends'
Oh,
situationships.
yeah, that's true.
Yep, that's true.
And I'll also say it's interesting because, like, we're saying things, but, like, that was never a conversation we had.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like,
yeah,
I remember you texted us,
yeah,
you told us you would broke up.
yeah.
And I think we were both like, oh, damn.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
yeah, I think in the text I remember saying something stupid like "damn, end of an era" or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that.
It was pretty good. Season finale.
Just when you thought this episode was over, Liz had one more challenge for us.
When's the last time that like one of you three shared difficulty, like a challenging situation, a relationship issue, a work issue?
Well, it's funny you mentioned earlier that men don't give themselves a chance to go deeper because they're always watching like a basketball game. Because Noah and I literally made plans to watch the Lakers at a bar after this.
Yeah. I will not be sharing any personal information out there.
Well, why don't you guys each share a personal struggle that's going on for you, and then you can talk about how it felt.
All right. Well, then I can go first. Mine is this medicine I've been taking.
Oh yeah.
So last year, hey, I won't bore you guys with the actual conversation, but I will summarize it. Basically, I talked about the complications I'm having with some medication I'm taking. Devin shared that he's trying to find a balance between work that he loves and work that gets him paid. And Noah shared that he's been trying to identify what his priorities are these days. The conversation lasted about 30 minutes, and then we talked about what it felt like to share these struggles with each other. How did that feel, guys? Sharing your personal struggles with the boys. I guess I can go first. If obviously it's like good to kind of get something off your chest or say something very personal, it feels therapeutic, yada yada. What I just said wasn't necessarily like a secret or something that I should have told you but hadn't yet. So I kind of feel like, if we were bowling and I had a drink or something, I might be complaining about that, and then it would have come up naturally. There can only be good to gain from like sharing that with someone. But how did you guys feel?
Obviously, because of the construction of this, it's a little different.
Yes.
Not that we're forced to do it, but it's like it's being set up in a different way. We're on mics. I mean, but and I don't think it was like I'm not pouring out the depths of my soul,
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, well, these aren't things that we really would talk about normally.
It's true.
A lot
It's
of it.
true.
I mean, I don't think I would want every conversation to be like this.
That would be very exhausting.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
guys,
It's like,
shut the fuck
it's
up.
like there's a balance, I guess. But I think sprinkling in a little more wouldn't hurt me.
I guess it's also the way you talk about something where like if I had brought up the medicine, if I was like a couple beers deep or something, I'd be talking about it in a completely different way than like sharing what I'm struggling with.
Right.
Yeah.
So it does help, I guess, to be like, okay, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
Versus, just shouting at someone over loud music.
Yeah. But it was nice to do.
Yeah.
I'll probably be sharing more on my end or trying to keep the door open a little bit versus being like, oh, that sucks.
Damn,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And then
Well,
just
it looks like
closing
my
the
chicken
conversation.
tenders already. You know what I mean?
the bowl,
Like,
boys.
let's have some fun and try to just be a little more open or receptive to that in case that is what someone's looking for.
Yeah.
In that moment.
Yeah, it did prove kind of Liz's hypothesis. I guess it's not necessarily hers, but she was talking about how we're just kind of socialized differently than women.
Yeah.
And we're socialized to want different things from conversations. Mm-hmm. It never occurred to me to tell you guys that medicine thing. Because I don't know why. Maybe in my head I'm like, why would they care about this? Or like, but just never occurred to me.
Yeah, I agree. No, this didn't feel like a groundbreaking, like,
Yeah.
I don't know. This is the right circumstances for us to have like
Yeah, we
that
wouldn't
sort
be
of
able to really,
conversation.
Yeah,
It's like-
and I don't know that it was
think
the
that's
intention of the.
I don't think so either.
no.
Yeah.
I do think, to Noah's point, it will be in the back of my head now because it seems like we're all open to talking about stuff more.
Yeah.
It's just like we don't want to prod, so it puts more of the person telling the thing just has to volunteer more information.
Yeah, that's true.
Like in our dynamic, like that's the only way we're gonna like. I think if one of us volunteered more information, then we would ask more questions. But if someone's
that's
pretty
true.
surface level, we're just sort of like, cool.
Yeah.
That's all you
we
want to
match.
say.
We match.
We were good. Yeah, exactly. So I think after this, I'll maybe be more proactive about if it's a thing I want to talk about, like opening the door a bit more. Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Next time Devin breaks up with a girlfriend of 8 years, I'm gonna ask why.
Thanks for listening to our confessions. This was No Such Thing by Manny, Noah, and Devin. The theme song was produced by me, Manny. Thank you so much to our guest, Liz Plank, whose book, For the Love of Men, is out everywhere. If you thought that this conversation was even a little bit insightful, you're gonna love that book. If you like the show, we're asking you to give us a 5-star rating on wherever you're listening. We're doing this show by ourselves and could use every little bit of help from people who enjoy it. And also be sure to subscribe to our Substack at nosuchthing.show. We'll see you next week.